Let's talk about Russell Wilson, and we're going to show some film in a second, but I want to start off here with some numbers. And first, we'll just look at the box score statistics. This was a tough season for him. Significantly, his worst passer rating as a starting quarterback was this year with the Denver Broncos. He had consistently been kind of an over 100 passer rating guy, sometimes even, one year even over 110, and he was kind of almost Mr. Consistency in a sense of he was consistently having these great touchdown to interception ratios year in and year out. Never been a super high volume guy, but that's just kind of, how Seattle treated him here. Another season of, under 4,000 yards, but he typically, again, has very good, even if he doesn't have the bulk stats, typically will have very good kind of efficiency in the passes that he has. So that's kind of where things get interesting. Also looking at his PFF grades year in and year out, with the most recent season being all the way at the top, again, significantly his worst season. And in fact, his two worst years were the previous 2 years. It was 2021, which we all kind of said, he was banged up. How much blame do you really put on him there? And, previously before that, he had come off of 3 straight seasons of an 88 or better grade in season. So, this is a guy who's definitely had some high highs, kind of, Denver felt like they were buying low, but one danger of buying low is, do you know it's actually at the dip, or is it going to dip a lot further? We still do not know. Now, one other thing that we have to mention is this chart. This is going to be a good chart to help us kind of talk about where we need Russell Wilson to be. So Russell Wilson is getting $48.5 million a year right now with the Denver Broncos. He is in his second year of that 5-year deal, although there is, it's not fully guaranteed, but good chunk of it is guaranteed. So that's kind of where Denver is at right here. For that, what you would need, so this chart is typically when you want to win a Super Bowl, this is how much you can afford to pay a quarterback. And this was last year, so it's a bit out of date. Cap has gone up since then. But a 5.83 win quarterback season, that's the best I've seen on record. That was a Tom Brady year. That means you could legitimately pay $101.9 million for that quarterback and have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Not just be okay, but have a chance to win a Super Bowl if you have that kind of season. A 5 quarterback win season, this is like a good MVP year. Like Mahomes probably had a 5 win season this year. That's over $70 million. 4 wins, though, that's the average, top 5 quarterback season. Wilson has definitely had some of those, and that would put you at 43.8. And then below that, you can only pay so much at that point. So for Wilson, he is someone who has consistently kind of been in that 4-win tier, which means that, okay, he's getting a tad overpaid, you could argue, but I think that's fine. He's someone who has shown that he can be in that tier. You can make up, $5 million elsewhere. It's not that bad. It's, that's a pretty solid deal. And getting a quarterback who's in that scenario definitely would help you out a lot. So that would be a good contract if he was a consistent 4-win quarterback, in my opinion. Plus the cap's going up, so it'll age well. But obviously, you're pretty far off when he's not even being a 1-win quarterback at this point. And, again, my algorithm says you have to at least be a 2.3-win quarterback to really have a chance here at a Super Bowl. It's very hard to do it if you can't at least get to that level. That's kind of how he won his first one, was he wasn't a 4-win quarterback then, I would say. But he was someone who, was on a good deal, so he was able to be maybe a 3-win quarterback on a rookie deal. One other chart before we finally get into the film, because I know some of you just want to watch film, but I like talking about it all. I love the combination of the two. And this is an important aspect as well, is the wide receiving play was tough. KJ Hamler, barely played in this year. Tim Patrick did not play this year. And then, the 3 guys who had enough snaps at the wide receiver position to qualify, you have Jerry Jeudy, who, he was good. Jerry Jeudy was a bright spot, and especially when he was, he wasn't out there every game either. He had his injuries. When he was out there, he was definitely a bright spot. But, you had Kendall Hinton getting significant playing time in this one. Courtland Sutton had that one good year, but it's kind of just been fine since then. And the reality is, Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, there's a lot more of talented receiving duos out there in the NFL. There is. And again, I like Jeudy. This has been a good year for him. But still, PFF was not a fan of this receiving core. In fact, they had them as the 30th ranked receiving core out of 32 eligible receiving cores. Obviously, there's 32 teams. So only 2 teams they said were worse. That was the Chicago Bears and Arizona Cardinals. So, it was a tough situation for Wilson to be in. It was. I actually think a play like this is a good example of kind of some of the issues that would arise, where it's going to be a zone coverage play, and you see how it's supposed to work. With Courtland Sutton eventually going to get into that route, it's going to take a little bit of time to develop, but you can see that, you have a receiver going to clear out the corner who's further deep. There's a bubble where you can make this throw. Right when this play begins, the offensive line's going to do a good job. Russell Wilson has time to make this throw, and you're in a spot where there is a window. It's not a wide open window. This is a tough throw to make, and this is kind of a good microcosm of what went wrong for the Broncos, I thought, was that Wilson was in a tough situation and wasn't doing a great job in a tough situation. Again, you could look at this and say he should have thrown a check down or something. I have no issue with him taking this chance, but you have to make the throw. As you see, this throw is going to be a bit high, and it ends up getting intercepted instead. So it was a tough throw to make. It was, but he missed through it, and now it's intercepted instead of just, being incomplete as well, which adds insult to injury. It's totally fine to say, that was a tough window, but at the same time, it's the NFL. Like, sure, the Rams defense is good, but you're going to play good defenses in the NFL. You have to find ways to be able to make throws, and that wasn't a great one. But of course, there were plays like this, which just, it's not ideal, not something you want to see have happen, where, watch what happens. Wilson takes the snap, he's going to look down the field, and just nothing's really open here. And you could definitely blame Nathaniel Hackett. You could blame the receiving core if you want to. And one thing that's just kind of interesting to look at is at the bottom of the screen, you have two players, and only really one Rams player can cover them right now. If they just spread out, you probably have a window, but they're not doing that. No one's really open. So now Wilson tries to make Russell Wilson magic happen, scramble out, doesn't work, and he gets sacked, and now things are in trouble. So this was definitely something that hurt. Was the receiving core not getting open consistently was a big issue throughout this season, again, with some exceptions. Like right here, I talked about Jerry Jeudy having kind of a good year and being one of the bright spots of this Denver Broncos team, and this is going to be an example where it's it's cover two, but it's going to essentially be a one-on-one matchup since the Chiefs are selling as though they have a single safety deep. That safety is currently, inside the hash marks right here. So for Jeudy, who's going to be outside the numbers, currently at the 19-yard line, this is going to be possible for you to get a one-on-one matchup here. Watch, Wilson takes the snap. Wilson doesn't even really know if this is open right here, but he's doing the right thing. He's trusting his most talented receiver. As you see, Wilson is going to make a very accurate throw. There were flashes of the old Russell Wilson. In fact, this game against the Chiefs was a good performance, I thought, by Russell Wilson. He had some good performances out there. Not a ton of them, but he had some. Like this play is another example where it's going to be it's zone coverage. And again, it's Greg Dulcich who he's trying to throw it to on this one. You have kind of, a window where you can see how he might want to make this throw, but it's a bit difficult in this situation. Further down the field, it's not an easy throw to make by any means. The situation, just in case you're curious, it is a second down, and they have to get the ball all the way to, looks like the 5 or 6 yard line. So they got some work to do here, but hey, getting a chunk play would help with that. Wilson takes the snap. He's going to look down the field, and you see that right here, it's a tough spot where the player who's in coverage right here has his back turned towards Wilson, so Wilson's going to try to make this throw, but you have to get it there quickly. If you don't get it there quickly and he gets his head turned around, it could be intercepted. But as you see, Wilson gets it perfectly there. Dulcich kind of bobbles it up a little bit, but still finds a way to make the catch. Interestingly enough, that was a completion and a very good one by Dulcich, but also a good play by Russell Wilson to get it down there. There were these flashes, but I also felt like he just had more like, what are you doing Russell Wilson moments. He would have the occasional one in Seattle, but I felt like he had a lot more in Denver, and maybe he just felt like he had to do too much. I don't know. Maybe it's just luck, and that luck will go back the other way. I really don't know, but like this play, very simple play. Hit a tight end, kind of in a gap in coverage. Simple enough. Right when this play begins, you're going to notice that Bobby Wagner is all over this, as he tends to be. Russell Wilson should know this, given how often these two guys played in practice. However, as you see, this one gets intercepted. Wilson made the throw anyway. Not really sure why. This was something that was an issue for Denver and with Russell Wilson. So where do they go from here? I really don't know. If I'm making decisions for Denver, I'm not doing anything rash. I'm still sitting here and saying, you know what? We're going to ride with, Russell Wilson. Broncos country, let's ride with Russell Wilson. That's what I'm doing. And I'm saying, you know what? We're going to give him one more year. Because the reality is, if he sucks, you're screwed anyway. Might as well give him one more year to see what can happen. And if it doesn't work then, at a certain point, you do have to start wondering at what point do you take the dead cap and just move on from it. It's a discussion to be made. I mean, if you did it this year, you'd have $107 million in dead cap. But maybe it's worth it to just get out of it 1 year and then you're good, because you pretty much are going to have dead cap. Even with the out. That's after 4 years. It's not a great out. You're still having a ton of dead cap there. You still have about $31 million in dead cap on that season. So the reality is there's a real logic behind it. Although I think you can still give it 1 more year, because the dead cap does drop to $85 million the following year. So $22 million difference. Either way, you'd be screwed for a year, but might as well just give it a shot, because it is still, we're kind of talking about one disappointing year and then one bad year with Denver. It could have been the situation. We'll see how it works, because he is still just 34. And if it works out and he does start returning to form, you could legitimately be Super Bowl contenders. So that's the risk reward. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.